There are those who believe President Obama is doing the right thing in seeking to tamp down the hysteria following the Paris and Mali attacks. And those would be in the minority on both the right and the left. This has one man seeking to ride that chair in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in 2017 causes more to wonder why a good part of America still follows him. Let them wonder, because Donald Trump's followers will not be deterred, though the same cannot be said for Dr. Ben Carson's people. And since when should the federal government get involved in creating a Judeo-Christian agency? Sauce for the turkey in this edition of The Political Animal. So it's a pleasure to welcome back the former Deputy Assistant Dick Cheney, Daily Beast contributor and CEO of Christie Strategies, Ron Christie, and forging the first Beast Throwdown, columnist for the Daily Beast, focusing on politics along with race and culture journalism, Barrett Holmes Pitner. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for joining us. Ron, I'm going to begin with you. What bothers you more, the fact that Donald Trump is making comments about thousands of people cheering in Jersey City on the day of 9/11 that have been proven over and over again to be false, or the fact that he says a Black Lives Matter heckler at one of his events, maybe he should have been roughed up?
Well, Ed, it's a very good question. I think both are equally troubling, but if you're going to have to draw a parallel between the two, I think his comments about 9/11 and those cheering on the other side in Jersey City, just across from the Hudson in New York, is much more disturbing to me. The notion that there were individuals who were cheering as thousands of Americans died, thousands of Americans lost family members and their loved ones, and Mr. Trump claims that he was witnessing this, and it's been proven time and time again. Glenn Kessler, most recently a fact checker, has proven that this is demonstrably false. If this man thinks that he is fit and he is able to serve as President of the United States, I think he's sounding a wee bit delusional with his comments.
But Barrett, let me come to you. Donald Trump once again has a commanding lead in the polls. It simply is incomprehensible to some people. But as I noticed, Donald Trump's followers are right there. It doesn't make a difference what he says. They believe that the man should be president of the United States. So Barrett, how do we then put the two of them together? Everything that he said versus what people want to hear.
Well, that doesn't mean that people want to hear the truth. Donald Trump supporters really, it's an emotional connection. They feel some connection to him that's beyond just a political fact. So he's saying stuff that stokes their anger and their disdain for the political establishment, and that's why they stay around him. The fact that they like him actually shows how he is not fit to run for president or to be president. It's just It doesn't make any sense, but we kind of understand that this is why it's happening, because they like the emotional connection.
But a lot of people, though, Barrett, feel that he is fit to become president of the United States. And there's even some people that I've heard over the weekend who say that maybe the Republicans need to understand that they're going to have to learn how to deal with Donald Trump.
No, without a doubt, they're going to have to learn how to deal with Donald Trump. He's leading in the polls of the GOP primary, so they have to figure out something to do. But if they want to be successful, they have to expand the voters that they're appealing to. And Donald Trump, he's in the lead right now, but we're still quite early, and everyone's going to have to figure out how to deal with him, because he's right now able to say whatever he wants, whether it's true or false. And his supporters are so animated that they're willing to beat somebody up who speaks out against him, which is quite dangerous when you think about it.
Ron, let's look at Ben Carson, who has been dropping in the polls ever so slightly, but he continues to drop. And just on Sunday, he noted that Thomas Jefferson, quote unquote, tried to craft our Constitution. It was another misstep by Dr. Carson. So the fact that he is dropping, do you believe that the fact that there are still people out there who like him, but the majority of Americans are deciding that Ben Carson is not the guy?
Well, Ed, I think what it demonstrates is that Dr. Carson has a strong following, particularly amongst evangelical Christians, particularly in Iowa. But as more Americans listen to his policies and more Americans listen to his positions on very key issues, they start to scratch their head and say, does he have what it takes? And I think what's led to his slide in 3 recent polls in Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina is the fact that he has gone around and said, well, I have a strong grip on foreign policy, but yet his own advisors, in a story to the New York Times, indicated this man just doesn't get it in foreign policy. So I understand the populist sentiment, and Barrett talked about this with Donald Trump a few moments ago, but I think Americans, particularly in light of the attack that we saw in Paris, want someone who has a strong grasp of foreign policy. And unfortunately for him, Dr. Carson doesn't seem to possess that.
Let me get to something else here. The results of a Rasmussen poll that was released today. 49% of Americans say they want the United States to formally declare war on ISIS. Ron, do you think this will make any difference whatsoever to a president that, quite frankly, Joe Scarborough took apart on MSNBC, basically saying that he still remains clueless at all? Do you think this will have any effect?
No, I don't. And sadly, the CBS News poll that came out earlier this morning indicates that only 23% of Americans believe the president has a strategy to combat ISIS. Contrast that with 66% who think that he does not. What I found most striking about these two polls, Ed, is that a majority of Democrats, not just Republicans, but Democrats do not believe he has a strategy to combat ISIS. And there's nothing that I've seen from the president in the last week and a half that indicates that he's going to change track and change his positions.
Barrett, I got about a minute left. Ted Cruz is rising. He's now second in the Iowa polls. Marco Rubio is showing strength. It would seem as if they are on the rise. Do you see, as you're watching this happen, do you see them as just that they're getting the steam behind them right now, and that they will be able to mount a really severe attempt to take down Donald Trump?
I think Ted Cruz is definitely playing on it. He's kind of riding like in the slipstream of Donald Trump and waiting for him to say something, and more of his followers, kind of more Trump followers, come in to start supporting Ted Cruz. So I think they're kind of playing the long game where these guys will eventually slip up on foreign policy, say something radical, and will alienate some supporters, and there will be more reasonable GOP candidates that they can fall back on. And Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio are definitely doing that. Marco Rubio is without a doubt trying to appeal to Latino voters and more centrist Republicans. And so, yeah, they are definitely playing a game where they're expecting Trump and Carson to a degree to mess up, and they can claim those supporters.
It's all a game, gentlemen, no matter how we look at it. Every time we meet, it's always a sport, and the sport is just becoming even more interesting as we get close to Iowa as well. Barrett Holmes Pitner, Ron Christie, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. We do appreciate your time. We'll talk soon. Now, the one spot where terrorists are making a mark that could well affect the entire world. That's coming up next, right here on The Hardline.